So without further ado, I'm going to go into a few questions for each of my esteemed panelists. I'm going to start with you, Edric. Yes. Well, why not? Yes, why not? So, in your presentation, we saw all the various craft techniques that you've been working with, and particularly the community that you've been working with in Sarawak. So, can you tell us a little about how your work is with them, and how you're able to, sustain the craft, especially working with the younger generations in the community, and whether they are, willing to take these craft traditions forward to the next generation. Because most craft techniques and expressions are not orally, I mean, they're transmitted orally, they're not written down, they're not put down in forms of sketches, but passed on generation to generation. So do you see that happening in your community?
Do you want a short answer or a long answer? The short answer would be yes. The long answer would be, well, the thing is that when you talk about cultural sustainability, you're talking about being resilient. Resilient means that you are able to weather through the situation, weather through times of good, evil, and good and bad. So I have started to note down, and maybe this would be a summary in answer to your question, that first of all, the community has to be tolerant of me. I'm an outsider. I have come in to help you with reviving your natural dye in your Wap Ikat Puakumbil. So they have accepted me, and so they have been tolerant. They have been accepting me because they've started to be more inclusive and not being exclusive. That means don't shout you out. They're also more open to sharing their textiles, because these were woven dreams, they were ritual cloth in the past. And so when they shifted from being what they call pagan or animistic believers, they became Christians, they became open, and so they have done away with the taboos of you can do this pattern, you can't do this pattern, you can wear this, you can't wear that. So it became more tolerant, and I think that's one of the other things which is talking about being able to sustain the culture, is being more tolerant, being more open, and more inclusive of other people coming in to work with you and to wear what you're doing. So I think that has happened with the Iban weaving community that I've been working with in the past 35 years.
That is very, very interesting, Edric, that you talked about how they've been open to you, and especially the part that you mentioned about the taboo against weaving certain motifs and not being able to weave other motifs. And I think that's a topic for another day, because that's a huge discussion.
No, because I think that it's not like you are like, sweetie, you're just starting, from scratch training,
Yes.
which is very interesting. But like for the Kashmiri as well, it's a very old tradition
Yes.
and motifs and all that.
Correct, yeah.
And many other crafts, I think, in India has the same idea, right? Of whether everybody can buy this kind of craft, can use, can display, or whether it's only religious and ritual and only for certain purposes.
Right, right. Thank you, Edric. I'm going to have my next question addressed to Arundhati. So when artisans start seeking other earning opportunities, that's when our craft traditions die out, right? So therein lies the cultural loss. And not just a cultural loss, but the loss of diversity as well. Now, you've been working with the Jamdani weavers in Fulia and
Bardhaman.
Bardhaman, yes. So yesterday I had a very interesting discussion with a gentleman at the bazaar, and he was telling me that the weavers in these communities don't want to weave handloom anymore, that they want to go into powerloom because it's more lucrative, or they just don't want to weave anymore, the younger generation especially. So how are you able to, or how would you say that your work is able to give them a reason to stay there in the community and to continue doing this kind of handcrafting?
Thank you for asking the question. Just a one-liner intro because I think I did not get the opportunity to introduce myself. It's not about me, but it's about my little brand called Asmani by Arundhati, which I started about 5.5 years back, completely inspired by Darshandi here and by Amritadi, who's the founder of Sutra Textile Studies. So they are my inspiration. And I work primarily on the hand-woven jamdani. Coming to your point, there are two things. See, for me, the most important thing is the respect. More than money, it's the respect.
Yes.
So the weaving community, I don't know about other parts of India. I have been traveling a little bit, but I have not seen enough to comment on the other places. But the communities I work with, they do not feel that people respect their profession. So a weaver tells me that I do not want my son to take up weaving or my daughter because I want him or her to study, maybe become a teacher in a primary school or something. So what is it we can do? Of course, money is there. You have to compensate. Today, even a construction worker earns more as daily wages than
Probably
many of
than
our
a weaver,
weavers.
yes.
So definitely the wages, the fair, in fact, when I applied for a craft mark certification for my brand, the process went on for 6 months, and the surveyor who came, he actually visited all my weaving units, and I had to show them data of how much I am paying to my weavers. So that is very important. You know that fair trade practices have to be there. Like
Absolutely.
first of all is the profession, whether it is lucrative enough, whether it is competent enough to be there or move. Like I also worked a little bit in Dhonekali. The cluster or the place is, it's like a dying craft. And imagine Dhonekali is the most humble weave where almost all our mothers, our grandmothers, every woman in Bengal had or has a Dhonekali.
Yes.
But when you go to Dhonekali, you will find everything is like languishing. Hardly anyone is interested. The master weavers are saying, my son is working in a tea stall. He is earning more by working in a tea stall than by weaving. And weaving is such a tedious process. And you work under such extreme harsh conditions, like extreme heat, then the rains, and you have like small huts. When during heavy rains, monsoons, the water is trickling down and spoiling the fabric on the loom. So it is an extremely hard life for them. So unless you pay them well, compensate them for what they're doing, and give them the respect, why will they stick to this profession?
Absolutely
So
right.
when I visit my weavers, whenever they invite me to come and, like Edric was talking about acceptance, and I think that is a very, very important thing.
Yeah.
Even though I do not come from a traditional textile background, I have been in the corporate sector for 25 years and then I made the shift. But I had been working with grassroots communities otherwise, so I think I could easily get into their homes. And whenever they offer me a meal or anything, I never refuse. I sit with them, I eat with them, and they feel, okay, Didi is like, she's part of us.
Yeah.
So they open up with all their problems. What will my daughter do? Will she take up weaving or will she marry and, like how that will be the end of my work. So, like you have to give them that respect. Once they feel they're valued, then, and once they get adequately compensated, it's just like any other profession. But right now they're not feeling that.
Which is such a shame.
It is.
If
it
we
is.
want to, sustain these craft traditions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Arundhati. I'm going to have a question next for Namrata. Namrata, through your brand, you've been working with a lot of different craft techniques, and you're also in a community with, the different artisans and the people who work with you. So how can you say that, fashion can help to sustain these traditions? I mean, we've seen your work that you're doing, but then I'm talking in a general context, since you are from that realm. How can we help to sustain these craft traditions, like Arundhati said, with respect and fair wages and acceptance? What would you say?
Hi, yeah. I think the points that she made are very valid. Everybody wants respect for sure and paid well for their time and effort. I also feel with the little bit of design background that I come and the knowledge
Yes.
I have the ability to sort of probably, you know, bring in a design intervention in the process. And I think it's all about evolving and changing with times.
Yeah.
So you still use the techniques that are
Yes.
deep rooted. You still stick to techniques, but you actually bring in a change that match to the current, requirement.
Right.
I think at the bottom line is that in real time we have to constantly change. The techniques are there, the colors are there, but I think it's also about bringing in the innovation in design so that we're able to meet the current requirement. And I think that is where I probably sort of I'm able to contribute and make a
Right.
difference.
Right.
Every season we spend a lot of time on R&D,
Yeah.
and we have clients who come in, who visit our facility. And the best part is it's a very transparent kind of interaction that the team has with the client, and they kind of tell their requirements, and based on that we create, designs and mood boards and patterns. So I feel that is an edge,
Right.
and it's really nice now that the team understands my language,
Yeah.
and in their spare time, whenever they have time, they come up with designs and they show me.
Right.
So I think it's a very slow transition, but yeah, to sum up, I feel that R&D is something that is very important, and from a design background, I'm able to contribute in this way so that we're able to. Most of my stuff is very contemporary, most of my designs, but we use very traditional practices, and I think that's what keeps us going. Yeah.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
important to to
Yeah.
keep these crafts
Yeah.
alive. You need to be relevant.
Yes.
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 I have one more question from what you were talking about. Your clients who come in, do they understand the importance of, sustaining these craft traditions and the traditional methods and practices that you're using, and or do you face any challenges there?
Um, a lot of we're fortunate. A lot of people, a lot of the clients that come in, they do come in thanks to technology. They come seeing our Instagram page because we really don't showcase so much of a product, but more of the process. If you look at our Instagram page, we
Right.
want people to know that
Yeah.
we are authentic and we do believe in
Right.
what we're doing.
Right.
Sorry, coming on your question again is.
So do you have any
Yeah,
challenges where your
so
clients
so
have
most of
any
the clients who come
difficulties?
in actually are aware of the techniques, and they definitely want to see how authentic we are.
Yeah.
But we've also faced a situation last year with one of the design brands in the US who asked us to design, and we developed the designs. We did the sampling. The sampling itself was about 400 meters, and then when it came to actual production, we discovered much later that they had gone to China and digital printed the whole design. So I think
There
that
you
was a
go.
bit of a disappointment over
There
there.
you go. Yeah.
But it's reality, and you have to accept it,
Yes.
and just stay at what you're doing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so therein lies the quandary that, do you work with clients and do all the work and do everything only to see it gone lost somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's part of the game.
It
Yeah,
is, I guess.
unfortunate.
Unfortunately, yeah. Sweetie, how can we as creative people sustain these traditional crafts and textiles, not just in the region where you are, like, in a local context, but more in a global context, pertaining to the work that you do in Jammu and Kashmir?
So actually, I've started my journey with handloom 2 years
Yes.
back
Yes.
It's only 2 years back, and I'm working on Kashmiri handloom since last 1 year only. So initially it was quite challenging for me because I'm not a Kashmiri.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a Kashmiri. I'm from Assam,
Okay.
but I love their crafts. I love the art of Kashmiri handloom,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very fascinating to me. That's why I decided to work on Kashmiri handloom.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were asking about the global values, right?
Yes, on a global level, how can we, take these crafts
Yes.
and make them global in order to sustain the traditions
Yes. So
and the culture?
we have I will talk about the challenges what I have faced
Yes.
initially,
Yes.
because it was quite difficult for me to encourage the newer generation to get involved in this Kashmiri art of handloom.
Right.
I will say the art of handloom.
Right.
So it was very challenging. So we have organized some like a workshop
Mm-hmm.
in schools and universities to educate the newer generation to that they should get involved with this art.
Uh-huh.
So and for that we can, so that they can get the niche market in
Hmm.
globally.
Hmm.
So right now we are doing started doing export.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our clients from in Gulf countries and the European countries. Now we are exporting.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we are exporting. So let's see. We don't know the future, but
Right.
let's see. We are working on it.
Okay.
So I hope something better will happen for the Kashmiri handloom.
Wonderful. At least there's a beginning.
Yes,
And
that's the
you
beginning.
being of the newer generation doing this kind of work is there in itself is it's heartwarming to see that,
Yes.
really.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a question for anyone else on the panel? Because this is a discussion. So, feel free.
I like your point when you said that is this a languishing craft, and that sunset industry, this is often talked about in the crafts arena.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have always taken offense to is that to call our artists as artisan.
Okay.
I think that the labeling of our weavers, they shouldn't be called artisans, because artisans means that they are like paid laborers only.
Okay.
So we have often given recognition to the weavers as the artists.
Mhm.
And so when you possess a piece, and
Mhm.
because their work
That's a
has been
wonderful
given
point.
recognition by UNESCO, so they have a label, a certification with it that shows the name of the weaver, the name of the title of her weaving, which is a woven dream, and the kind of dyes they use and the textile that they use. So I think we have to give recognition that they are artists, and only then can we elevate them to the same status as any other fine artist.
It's a wonderful point because in Bangla we refer to them as Tat Shilpi, and they refer to each other as Tat Shilpi. Tat Shilpi means, if you literally translate, it means the loom artist. So we do not call them Tati. Tati means the weaver. But when we address, or when they address each other, they say this, like this loom artist or handloom artist. So basically, it's exactly what you're saying is actually being practiced. We call them Tat Shilpi. Shilpi is like some artist. So that is how you give them the respect. Very good point.
That's wonderful. Does anyone else have any other questions? What I would like to share finally is a bit of the work that I've been doing as well with artists and craftspersons. What I'm going to talk about is our jewelry line. I don't know how many of you saw some of the jewelry yesterday in the show, but the jewelry line is entirely made using the Zardozi craft, which historically has always been done on textiles. But our jewelry is not done on textile, it's done on leather scraps, which we get from the leather industry, leftover bits from the people who make bags and shoes. which they would normally throw away and it would go to landfill. So what we do is we try to find a way to upcycle them. And when I first started, when I first wanted to use Zardozi for my jewelry, I was trying to think of a way that, you know, we could make it more relevant, make it more possible for everyday wear, and not just on your wedding, you know, couture pieces or pieces that you would only wear once. So you know, I wanted to find a way, and then I thought of using it on jewelry to make everyday pieces like bracelets or earrings or neck pieces. And when I approached the skilled embroiderers to do this for me, you know, to start with experimenting, they absolutely refused, first of all, and they were quite shocked, and they said, no, it can't be done. We can't work on leather, we can't make jewelry. So, you know, it was a whole year of persuading them, experimenting, doing trials before we were able to make just a few pieces of bracelets. When they saw the outcome, they were quite surprised and they were quite amazed. And they actually, you know, began to like it, and they actually began to enjoy doing this work in a different way. And then there started the whole thing. Soon it became a collaborative process where I would give them the design, but then they would tell me what would look nice in it. And they would say, you know, no, that stitch would look better on this part, or, you know, using this material would be nicer here. And that's what I began to enjoy as well, this kind of collaboration, because, you know, that's a new way of keeping that craft alive. That's a new way of sustaining that tradition. And today, our jewelry line is entirely made, I just leave it to them mostly. I say, okay, I want this kind of look and feel, but you know, you are the artist, and you're the one who's going to tell me what's going to look nice. And that's how we do our jewelry line. And these are pieces that are wearable for everybody. So it's just you know, a more relevant take on the craft, and it's a way to keep it going forward, and to sustain that tradition, that culture that, you know, I've tried to work on through my jewelry. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and thank you, all the panelists. Does anyone have any questions for any of the panelists? Yes?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
How can we co-opt digital printing in to help preserve heritage instead of destroying it? Because it is a very challenging threat.
I agree. I think the beauty of handcrafted is, especially what I do, tie and dye, shibori. It's sort of a reversible. It's got both faces. With digital printed, it's only one side. So when they initially took it to China for printing, and they came back, and there was a buying house. The buying house said, they were very transparent. I have a good relationship with the buying house. And they said, you know, we took it to China, and unfortunately, it's only one side. So the other side is white, and they have certain cuts in which the bag also, sort of bag fabric also drapes, so it's looking really flat. So, which means that, you know, I'm going to push them to get the order here. So I said, great, that's fine. Unfortunately, they changed the style just to meet the price point. So I think it's something that I also ponder on, that can we actually beat they're going to China only for the price point. So can we actually come to that level ever, you know? And sometimes we may not be able to match that level, and there's no competition per se, but I feel if you're genuinely doing work in your line, you will always find a client. And in that way, I can talk about from my past and my history that I have been very fortunate that we have worked with clients who are sensitive to what we do, it's not possible to meet the fast fashion trend. Um, but we have processed orders like from 200 to 4,000 meters with absolute consistency without any rejection. It's only about being consistent and focused on the work. So I think there's always going to be that push and pull. It's very hard to match that level. I don't know if somebody has a better answer, but that's what I have experienced.
Yeah, I just want to comment something. I think that it's not so cheap to do anything handmade in China anymore. The level of lifestyle has come up so much. India has your own Federal Ministry of Textiles and Handlooms. So long as it still is there, and the focus is to ensure that the hand weaving industry continues, and as you said, adequate wages are paid and received by the artists, I think that this will still be the storehouse of the handmade, handwoven.
And to also to answer your question.